Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. If you're new here, my name is Jonathan. I'm a qualified wealth manager, one of the leading golden visa consultants working in the world today. I help internationally minded people to secure a second citizenship for their family and give them a more flexible future. My team and I have a 100% track record of success spanning more than 1,000 client cases now, so we do know what we're talking about. And today we'll be looking at the major golden visa programs that exist in the European Union as of 2025 and asking the question, which one is right for you? Now, this topic is rather diverse, so to be a little bit more specific, we will start by breaking down the issue of golden visas into a few different sections. We'll begin by looking at what golden visas actually are, who they're designed for, and then after that, we'll take a quick look at the political context. Golden visas are quite controversial these days, so it is important to understand why and what is happening in the political landscape because it will shape our future in this space. A special mention to Malta and Spain here, who have closed their programs very recently and both for very different reasons. And we'll be discussing the likely short-term impact of this on other EU programs as well. After that, we will explore what it means to have a second passport in Europe before then diving into the major programs that exist here in the European Union. Those are Portugal, Italy, and Greece. We'll also briefly touch upon Cyprus and Hungary too. There is another program that is starting to really gain traction in terms of popularity, and that's Latvia. So we will be discussing that as well. There are other programs that exist in this continent, but they are rather niche, quite low volume as well. So unless you have a compelling reason to be looking at other nations than the ones that are on your screen there, we're better off focusing on these nations and these golden visa programs. We will then go through a decision tree that aims to identify which program might be right for you. Now, this isn't an exact science, and it's always best to review your options with an expert if you're not sure, but this should hopefully give you some clarity or at least some validation that you're indeed on the right track. We will then wrap up today's session by looking at key considerations to bear in mind when looking to pursue a second citizenship. Okay. So let's get started with the basic question. What are golden visas? Well, before we can answer that, we need to start by mentioning a problem that many of us in today's society face and are facing more acutely, and that is the issue of borders. Borders, what are they? What do they do? Well, they can stop us doing business, they can stop us living, raising our children, or retiring in the places where we truly want to be around the world. However, if you can meet the requirements, this is where the concept of a golden visa comes into play. Golden visas provide a pathway for foreign investors and their families to obtain residency or even citizenship in a particular country by making a significant investment into that country. And that's usually a six-figure sum. Not always, but usually that is the case. So what are golden visas? The term golden visa is actually a little bit of a misnomer. It's a marketing term. Derived essentially because a golden visa is your golden ticket, if you will, into a country of your choosing. It is an investor visa that grants you certain freedoms, residence privileges in exchange for your investment into that country. The types of investment will vary, and that is essentially according to the country and the program on offer. And of course, the levels at which, the amounts at which you need to invest will vary from country to country as well. The privileges that you receive as part of the golden visa program will, of course, vary from country to country too, and that's why we're doing the comparison that we're doing today. One of the main benefits is that the golden visas can lead to citizenship under certain circumstances, and a second passport will, of course, give you extra freedom and flexibility when planning your future and when planning your family's future. Other benefits might include visa-free travel to countries around the world, access to local healthcare, education, etc., etc. Essentially, key takeaway, if you have the funds to qualify for a golden visa, this can be a very powerful tool to open your world in exchange for an investment. What's more, if you do the process well, in many cases, you can actually make a very healthy return on that investment in addition to the golden visa and potentially a citizenship in the future. So therefore, it can make a lot of sense from a financial planning standpoint. That being said, the European Union and the European Commission don't believe that they make sense from the political standpoint. The idea of citizenship for sale has been widely condemned by lawmakers in Brussels, and there have been concerted and, if we're honest, rather thinly veiled attempts to get member states to tighten up their programs in recent years, although we certainly cannot question the efficacy of those efforts. The main reason given for that are concerns surrounding security risks coming from major markets across Asia, and considering the depth and the length of the war in the Ukraine at this point, and recent tensions between China and the developed world, notably the US, which we're definitely seeing in 2025, you can understand why politicians would become more nervous about non-EU nationals simply buying their way into a European passport. And to a certain extent, as we've just mentioned, that pressure from Brussels is indeed working. So Ireland have scrapped their investor scheme entirely, as have the UK, although of course the UK no longer part of the European Union. Montenegro had to scrap their scheme as a precursor to potentially ascending into the European Union during the next few years. Spain has just closed its program. Supposedly that was in an effort to tackle a local housing crisis. Whether or not that is true, very much up for debate. And the Maltese Citizenship by Investment program has actually just been ruled as illegal by the European Courts of Justice and will shortly be forced to close. The Maltese program is very different to the golden visa programs that we'll be discussing today, but that is an interesting development. And Portugal and Greece have both significantly tightened their access criteria for their respective golden visa programs, removing certain investment options, raising minimum investment amounts. And all of this, if you take a step back and look at the forest and not the tree, this is a real shame because the need for second citizenship is now greater, really, than it has been in recent memory. And more people are now realizing the benefits and flexibility that a second citizenship could offer them and their family. So take away from this slide then, if second citizenship is on your radar, you would be best advised to look at this sooner rather than later to make sure that you keep your options open and avoid potential disappointment. So, why is European citizenship such an important objective for so many people? Well, if you're watching this video, it might be because you're already well aware, but let's quickly recap the fundamentals. Firstly, most EU nations will allow dual citizenship. Not always the case. For example, Spain, unless you come from an ex-Spanish colony, Spain would make you renounce your current citizenship before giving you Spanish nationality. However, the majority of European nations, and certainly the nations that we'll be talking about here today, do allow you to assume dual nationality. Now, a European passport also conveys a great deal of freedom onto its holder. It allows you to live, work, study, retire, open a business in 27 countries across the European Union. And visa-free travel is, of course, a given with no restrictions across the Schengen area. And a European passport will also give you visa-free travel to more than 180 countries around the world. Importantly, getting European citizenship does not change your tax position in any way. You will only have tax obligations in Europe, in the country where you have your residence permit, on the assets that you have within that country. Your worldwide income and assets are only taxable if you become a tax resident in the European nation in question. Europe does not operate on the basis of on the basis of citizenship. Europe does not operate a regime on the basis of citizenship for taxation purposes in the same way that the USA does. American nationals, of course, wherever they are tax resident around the world, do still have to pay tax on their worldwide income in the USA. That's not the case if you are a European national. Obviously, tax is a complicated topic. If you're unsure about that, then do seek specialist advice. But European citizenship is also a fantastic gift for your family. Why? Essentially because it can be passed down for future generations to come, giving your children, your children's children, and beyond all of the freedoms that we just outlined. It is a fantastic investment into your quality of life, but also into the quality of life of your children, your grandchildren, great-grandchildren, and beyond. It truly is a wonderful legacy that you can leave behind after you're gone. Now, bear in mind that everything that we've just spoken about is the case for all European citizenships. All passports issued by the countries on the right-hand side of your screen there convey these same benefits to their holders. Now, there are certain countries that are more accessible than others. There are certain countries that will give you an easier path to a passport, and of course there are certain golden visa programs that are more that offer more favorable terms than other programs in the region. So we'll be diving into that now, but you may be interested to examine which country gives you the path of least resistance. Well, that being said, in any case, getting the passport, as we've just seen, should be a no-brainer. Now, let's look at the major European schemes for full context on what is available to us. So there's an awful lot of commonality here, but there are some very important differences which we will look at now. The first one is the time it takes to achieve residency. Now, most countries will give you this in a few short months, with the sole exception of Portugal. Now, this is purely down to the popularity of the Portuguese scheme, which has overloaded the immigration authorities, and you'll see why it's been so popular in just a second. But Portugal does certainly stick out like a sore thumb in that regard. However, if your ultimate goal is citizenship, important to note that Portugal will now include any waiting time, that processing time, as part of your holding period before you can then apply for citizenship. So these 18 months count towards your citizenship, and Portugal starts to really stand out when we look at the physical stay requirements for the golden visa and then onwards towards the citizenship as well. Now, most European Union golden visa programs require you to become tax resident, live most of the year in the country if you want to ultimately obtain citizenship. That is not the case for Portugal, which requires a physical stay of just 1 week per year. Portugal also offers the shortest timeline to citizenship at just 5 years, compared to 7 to 10 years for many other European programs. So if you're after citizenship as your first priority and you want to get this relatively quickly and largely from the comfort of your own home, Portugal may very well be the one. Now, if you're investing for a second citizenship, it's also rather important that your chosen country offers dual nationality, as we've mentioned. The remaining EU programs all now do. Minimum investments can vary from €250,000 in Greece and Hungary, slightly more for Cyprus, €500,000 in Portugal and Italy. And there is another program that offers an extremely low minimum investment requirement, which is why it's increasing in popularity in recent years, and that is Latvia, which you can access for just €60,000 if you do it right. However, citizenship in Latvia takes 10 years, all of which must be spent living in Latvia, and you must obtain fluency in the Latvian language as well, which is very difficult to achieve in practice. So this is really just a low-cost way of getting an EU residence permit for the most part. Now, that's useful if you don't already have visa-free access to the Schengen area. So let's say that you're an Indian national, Pakistani national, Nigerian national, etc. This may be of interest to you. But not very useful if you happen to be American, Canadian, British, or from any other nation that already benefits from visa-free travel around Europe. Now, in all of these cases, you can include children and dependent parents, with the sole exception of Latvia, where parents cannot be included. And as we said, the only option where tax residency is not required to ultimately achieve citizenship is now just Portugal. In all cases, you can have access to local healthcare, education, and also employment opportunities across the European Union by being a citizen of any one of these countries, provided, of course, that you live there. Okay, by this point, you might have a fairly decent idea of which program could be right for you, but in the interest of completeness and helping you along the way towards that decision or that conclusion, let's just go through a decision tree now to make sure all the bases are covered. Now, for this exercise, I'm going to assume that your ultimate goal is a second citizenship in Europe. As I mentioned, this is quite a rudimentary way of approaching what can be quite a complex topic on occasion. So for a personal assessment and personal guidance on a free, no obligation basis, do feel free to reach out to me. We can book in a meeting over Zoom if you would like to better understand your options and get some support on that front. The first question that I would suggest that you ask on this journey is, do I want to relocate imminently? If you do want to relocate ASAP, then we'll cover that in the next slide. But assuming that you do not want to relocate, this is fairly simple, as options for a remote second citizenship are rather limited. Next question then. Do I have at least 500,000 euros to invest? Well, if you don't, then Europe does not have a great deal of options for you, truth be told, unless you're prepared to compromise on your geographic location. So you may be better served looking at the Caribbean programs instead. These are rather cheaper than their European counterparts in terms of capital required, but they tend to be donations rather than investments, and the passports offered are simply nowhere near as powerful. And even when we do start talking about investments in that region, the investments do tend to be rather weak and with quite fragile fundamentals. That is something worth bearing in mind, and it's definitely worth having a look at if budget is a limiting factor here. However, if you do have 500,000 euros to invest, let's now ask ourselves, what are my timelines? Can I wait 18 months to get the residency, or am I in a particular rush? If you can wait that year and a half, then go for Portugal. It's that simple. Portugal is the number one remote pathway to European citizenship by, ultimate citizenship by investment, and for good reason. It's a flexible program. It offers good return on investment if done right. You can take a look at my other videos. I have a plethora of other videos on this channel that explore that and take a little bit of a look to see what that looks like. And also the Portuguese program does give, of course, full dual citizenship after holding the investment for just 5 years, as we've just seen. Now, if you can't wait that year and a half for the residence permit, I'm afraid we need to revisit our initial criteria again, because there are no immediately suitable options in the European Union anymore, I'm afraid. Therefore, you may wish to ask yourself if another citizenship outside of the European Union can help you to accomplish your ultimate goal. Now, for this, Turkey and the Caribbean both offer interesting solutions. The Dubai Golden Visa is another one. That actually, I've placed that in brackets here, simply because that does not lead to citizenship, but it may be worth consideration if what you're looking for is a Plan B insurance policy. I have a dedicated video on that elsewhere on this channel, so do have a look for that if that's something you'd like to explore. However, if you are not happy looking outside of Europe, then I would respectfully suggest simply reconsidering your timelines and going with Portugal after all. So those are your best options. A little bit limited if you're looking to do this remotely. However, the world opens up a little bit more if you do want to undertake a full relocation. Okay, the question to begin this is rather straightforward, of course. Do I know where I ultimately want to relocate? We are, of course, assuming that there is going to be a full relocation here. I would assume that for those of you watching this video, the answer would be no. Otherwise, why are you watching this video? But if the answer is yes, quite simple, then you should, of course, go there if that country has a visa option that works for you. Now, important point, if that country does not give you the option of citizenship, then it may actually also be worth considering Portugal as a remote option. I do have clients that are living in a different EU nation and pursuing Portuguese citizenship to make the administrative side of things ultimately a lot more straightforward. Remember, obtaining a second passport will give you permanent rights, not just to you, but also your future generations to come. And that can be truly life-changing. So worth considering if your destination country doesn't offer you a pathway to citizenship. Coming back to this, though, assuming that you don't know where you want to base yourself, but you are looking to relocate, then here are some key factors that you may wish to consider. So ask yourself which of these are more important from this list. The first, flexible physical stay requirements. Is it important to me to be able to come and go? Maybe you're not sure if Europe is really for you. Maybe you're not entirely sure where it is that you want to ultimately be, but you want assurances of a passport without committing to years and years of physical stay requirements. If so, then Portugal, yet again, is the one for you. And it's the same conclusion if you're looking for the shortest investment holding period for citizenship. Now, if your top priority is a favorable tax regime for high net worth individuals, consider Greece. If you move here, you can opt to pay a special flat rate of tax of 100,000 euros per year, regardless of your income levels, correct time of recording. And interestingly, Italy does offer something very similar as well. But of course, the Italian golden visa is considerably more expensive than the Greek golden visa. Of course, seek specialist tax advice before taking a decision if this is indeed a major factor for you. Now, Greece is also attractive if your priority is at the other end of the scale, where you're looking for the lowest capital commitment to access an EU golden visa. However, this is, of course, blown away by Latvia at just an entry cost, at just 60,000 euros when it comes to the entry cost. Remember that the pathways to citizenship in both Greece and Latvia are extremely difficult, however. And finally, a major one, education, healthcare, and safety. Now, these are all huge considerations for a lot of people looking to move to Europe. The good news here, however, is that all developed European nations are among the safest in the world. They all offer great access to healthcare, leading education systems. So whilst this is an important criterion in this discussion, the difference between EU member states in this regard is so small that it probably shouldn't be your major consideration when taking this decision. Recapping then, so when it comes to golden visas, Portugal remains the number one route to a European citizenship at present. This is because it is really quite different to the other options in the market, principally because you can get full citizenship without taking tax residence in the country. You only need to stay there for a minimum of 6 days, for a minimum of 7 days per year on average. And the fact that you can become eligible for the citizenship after just 5 years makes this particularly compelling. This is the shortest investment holding period in the market. Greece runs a close second to Portugal, but it does have a number of limitations, namely that you must become tax resident there, and there's an extra 2 years of investment holding period before you can qualify for citizenship, and you do need full fluency in the Greek language if citizenship is ultimately your goal as well. That said, Greece does offer one of the lowest capital requirements in the market and has a flat rate tax option for those of you with very high incomes. Now, looking at the rest of the landscape, Italy, Cyprus both offer a wonderful Mediterranean lifestyle, but their golden visa programs don't really make sense when compared with the likes of Portugal and Greece, unless you decide that you want to live there. Same conclusion with Hungary, but of course Hungary is a very different lifestyle, and if you happen to be an American watching this video, Hungary is the only nation from this list that does not have a double taxation treaty with the USA, at least correct at time of recording, so that can cause some issues when it comes to tax planning. Do bear that in mind. And of course, many people may consider that Hungary may not offer quite as an attractive lifestyle when compared versus the Mediterranean nations, but that is, of course, down to your own personal preference. And lastly, as we've mentioned earlier, Malta no longer offers their previously rather popular citizenship by investment program, and Spain no longer offers a golden visa in any form. Alternative visas where you must spend significant time as a full tax resident will now be required if your goal is naturalized citizenship in these member states. So, hopefully that's helped you to understand the landscape in 2025, but before we wrap up for today, a few considerations that I'd ask you to bear in mind before you end up moving forward with your own golden visa. Firstly, does my current nationality allow second citizenship? It is best to have clarity on this before starting, as places like China, India, Saudi Arabia don't technically allow their citizens to hold a second citizenship. That said, the data does not lie, and these are some of the biggest markets for the golden visa, so you can draw your own conclusions on this. Quite frankly, many people simply do not consider this an obstacle and choose to proceed regardless. Next, will a second citizenship change my tax position? Now, this is not the case for European citizenships for the most part. When it comes to Europe as a general rule, if you do not live there, you will only be taxed on your affairs inside that country. Citizenship does not have any impact on your tax position whatsoever. Of course, however, American citizens are taxed in the USA, regardless of where they are tax resident. So many Americans are actually renouncing US citizenship now prior to a move to Europe. It goes without saying, but always, always, always seek specialist tax advice before taking such a decision. Ideally, do that with enough advance time prior to any relocation to give your advisor enough time to give you a decent plan and to actually move forward and implement that before you relocate. Next question to consider, who is this for? Well, is it just for you? Is it for your spouse, your parents, your kids? Make sure that you pick a program that meets your needs in a cost-efficient way, but of course also that allows for everyone to be involved. Age limits will vary from program to program, as will dependency requirements. And as we've seen with the case such as Latvia, where parents are not permitted, there can be minutiae that will separate individual countries from each other. And lastly, very important, this one. What is my exit strategy once I have received my citizenship? You will likely want to make sure that your capital comes back to you once your golden visa journey is over. So an ironclad exit strategy would be essential in that case. This will depend from investment to investment, of course, so do make sure you're working with credible people that you can trust. Take a look at my country-specific videos on this channel to learn more about exit strategies and what to look for in an investment case. Speaking of other videos on this channel, that would be the recommended next step from my side. Now, in the top right-hand side of your screen there, you can see links to an overview video for the Portugal Golden Visa, which would give you key background to that program, if that is indeed the right one for you. Take a look if you're ready to take a deeper dive, or of course, search the other videos on my channel. I do discuss other programs such as Greece on here. You will find links in the description box down below my head as usual, and of course, also in the end screen at the end of this video, which incidentally is right now. So I hope this video was useful. I hope you gained some insight into the golden visa possibilities for you and your family. Remember, not all golden visa programs are the same, and the right one for you will likely depend on several criteria. That all being said, it's nigh on impossible for me to sit here behind a screen in front of a camera and tell you which program is right for you without actually knowing the ins and outs of your ambitions and your personal situation. But maybe we can get 80% of the way there, which is what we've tried to do in today's video. So if you would like some tailored guidance on the path to take, or if you'd like some validation that indeed you're on the right path, maybe you're ready to start exploring some investment opportunities with me and my expert team in the country of your choosing, well, feel free to book in a meeting with me using the QR code that's on your screen there. If you're watching this on your phone, I'll also put the link again down below my head in the description box to make that nice and easy for you. And last thing before you go, small favor, if you like this content, please do let me know. I would love to get that feedback. You can do that by liking the video, by subscribing to the channel. It will also make sure that you stay updated on all things golden visas and second citizenships, as I do try to put out new content fairly regularly. That, of course, can depend on how busy we are in 2025, given the tumultuous geopolitical relations that we're seeing around the world. It has been a very busy year thus far, but I will try to increase the frequency of my video publishing this year as much as I can. In any case, that is it from me for today. As always, thank you very much for watching. Have a beautiful day ahead. Take care, everyone, and I'll see you again very soon.